everyone. Today we are going to learn about something really important in math called slope. Slope helps us understand how steep a line is and how it moves. By the end of today's lesson, you should be able to do three things. First, define what a slope is. Second, determine the slope from a graph. And third, calculate slope using 2 points. So what is slope? Slope is the measure of how steep a line is. Another way to think about slope is rise over run. In an equation like y equals mx plus b, the m represents the slope. So if I have y equals 2x plus 5, the slope is 2. So that means your rise over run would be 2 over 1 because 2 divided by 1 is 2. Now let's imagine this in more simple terms. Think about climbing a mountain. Which one would be the hardest to climb? Would it be A, B, or C? Well, slope C would be the hardest because it is the steepest. Slope A would be the easiest because it is the least steep. So the steeper the line, the greater the slope. Just like the mountains, lines can have different steepness. Slope A is the smallest slope. Slope B is the largest slope. When we talk about slope, we are really talking about how steep something is. There are three main types of slope. A positive slope goes up from left to right. A negative slope goes down from left to right. And a zero slope is completely flat, like a horizontal line. So let's look at this example. Look at these three lines. Which one has the lowest slope? Remember, the lowest slope is the least steep. We choose the line that looks the flattest. So that would be line C. Now, for this example, let's determine which line has a slope of 0. Remember, a slope of 0 means the line is completely horizontal. It doesn't go up or down at all. So based on this information, which line is completely flat? That would be line B. Now let's talk about how we would find or solve for slope. To find slope, we use m equals rise over run. Rise is how much the line goes up or down. That's the vertical change. So you would count the grid spaces for how much the line rose. Run is how much the line goes left to right. That's horizontal change. So then you would count how many grid spaces it moved horizontally. Then you would put your rise over your run. That would be the same as dividing them. So we know the formula for slope is m equals rise over run. So we can follow these steps to find the slope of a line based on the graph. Okay, so step 1 would be locate 2 points on the line. Then, starting with 1 point, sketch a right triangle. Okay, count the rise and the run on the legs of the triangle. So if we look at the rise from the point, it went up 4 spaces, and then it's equally in line with the other point. Then we will count the horizontal spaces until we get to that point. So we rose 4 and also ran 4. So rise over run would be 4 over 4, which equals 1. So our slope would be 1. Here is an example of a negative slope. So starting with the lowest point on the line that was marked, the rise is 6 because it went up vertically 6 spaces, but the run is -3 because it's going left or backwards instead of right. So then our formula would be rise 6 divided by run -3. So we would get -2. So our slope is a negative slope. In this example, we have a rise of 8 and a run of 4. Because starting at our lowest point, we counted how many spaces up vertically until it matches horizontally with our new point. Then we count how many spaces we need horizontally to get to that point. So we had 8 over 4, so our slope is 2. Here is an example of a slope that remains a fraction. So we have a rise of 4 and a run of 6. We could keep it 4 over 6, but we simplified it to be 2 over 3. So now that you know the formula for slope and how to find it, use your knowledge to find the slope of each of these lines. Pause it so that you can work it out before I give the answer. For line 1, you should have got a slope of 1. And for line 2, you should have got a slope of 3, negative 2. Now let's practice 2 more. Solve the slope for lines 3 and 4. Pause it so you can work it out before I share the answer. Alright, for line 3, you should have got a slope of 1/2. And for line 4, you should have got a slope of no slope because this is a horizontal line. Now let's talk about one more way that we can find slope. We can find slope using 2 points on a line. So for example, if we have a line that passes through the point 4, 3 and 2, 7, we can find the slope of this line using the formula m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So your x represents your horizontal point and your y represents your vertical point, the position. And so you have 2 points here, so y2 would be the y in your second point. So we would have 7. For y1, it would be the y in your first point, so that would be 3. So on the top, you'd have m equals 7 minus 3. On the bottom, we have x2 minus x1. Well, so x2 would be your x of your second point, so that's 2. And then x1 is your x of your first point, which is 4. So that's 2 minus 4 on the bottom. When we simplify this, we get 4 over negative 2. But when you divide 4 divided by negative 2, you get negative 2. So your slope would be negative 2, just using this formula and the points without even needing to look at the line. But let's think for a second. Will the slope of the same line change if we switch the 2 points? Let's check. Now remember, these are different points but on the same line. So let's see. We have point 1, 2, 7, and point 2, 4, 3. Okay, well, we just switched them, right? So let's plug them into the formula. y2 minus y1, so we have 3 minus 7. Then x2 minus x1, we have 4 minus 2. We are left with negative 4 divided by 2, which still equals negative 2. So the slope did not change. Now let's try another one. Here we have point 1, 0, 5, and point 2 is negative 2, 11. So let's plug these in for our formula. We have y2 minus y1. So on top we have 11 minus 5. Then we have x2 minus x1. So on bottom we have negative 2 minus 0. When we simplify these, we get 6 over negative 2. Well, 6 divided by negative 2 is 3. So our slope would be 3. Now using the formula, y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1, solve for the slope of the following points. So now that the lesson is over, you should be able to describe what the slope of a line is, explain how you can determine the slope of a line from a given graph, and how you can compute the slope of a line when you are given 2 points.